beautiful people. I want to welcome you to the new podcast, which is called The Balance with Erika B. Now, this was formerly just a disclosure to everybody. This was formerly known as the Balance Boss Mom podcast, where we talk about motherhood, we have honest conversations about healing, identity, growth, all of that. Still the same message that's happening here, just a new name. So I just want to throw it out there first and foremost so we can get it out there. Not only that, we're about to start adding more mental health, growth, relationships, and wellness involving into this podcast, and just navigating through life. Same message, but I'm just elevating it for now everyone. So I'm kind of disheartened a little bit about the formal name being taken from me, but you know what? Every season has a different message and a different method to it that I have to see it. So with this new season comes into a new name, a new platform, new guests, um, doctors, lawyers, whoever you are more than welcome to come onto the podcast. So I'm your host, Erika. Of course, like I said, it's The Balance with Erika B. And this is your first time here. Welcome. This is going to be a safe place, not only for women, but for men. I wanted to create an establishment of where the balance with Erika B comes about just having fun and letting loose and just being raw. You can cuss on here if you want to. I don't even care because we're elevating this shit at this point. Okay. So today's episode is so important to me because this is a new episode. This is one I haven't been back for 7 weeks. And I've had some strong people behind me in my corner, so I appreciate it. And Phoebe is one of them. So let's get into the shit. I'm ready. Welcome
All
to the
right.
podcast.
Thank you for having me, Erica. It's a
Mhm.
pleasure to be
Yep.
here. It's been nice just connecting with you, getting to know you, sharing all of our different stories and also realizing how we have all these things in common. So thanks for having me.
You know what? Like I said, everybody has a season and everybody has a story to tell. So
That is true.
it's been such a a reflection in the last couple weeks where I've had a lot of changes happen, especially with the
Mm-hmm.
rebrand and coming about with a new name and understanding now this is just elevating. It's just a season of elevating and
Mm-hmm.
reflecting. And it's going to be, I know it's going to be okay. I'm glad that my supporters are still here and still listening, regardless if it was
Absolutely.
old or now you're new. Like I said, the
Yeah.
shit's just elevated at this point. And
Yeah, it
if people
is.
get mad about me cussing on my podcast, I don't give a shit anymore.
Oh, well. Oh, well.
Oh well, I don't care anymore because now it's just much elevated. Now, if you have little ones around you, I do say, you know, let them go in the playroom or
Mm-hmm.
outside
Put your
playing.
headphones on.
Put your headphones on because when I say the balance with Erica B is going to be a new roller coaster, and a lot of people are probably going to be like, I understand why she changed the name. It's gonna be cool. I'm excited. I'm excited for the rest of 2026. Now, if y'all try to take this name, y'all some bullshit. Okay. If y'all decide to try to take this shit from, I'm not letting that happen. So,
Mm-mm. No,
like my
no.
mom has taught me, she said it's only a season that you're gonna be into, and the last 7 weeks have been for sure a shit show and a
Yeah,
season. So,
yeah, yeah.
like I said, this episode is so important to me because previously, before in the old podcast, I advocated a lot for African American women and I
Mm-hmm.
advocated for women in general. But in this conversation, we're going to be talking about how like infertility and how it affects everyone, whether you're a woman and or on the flip side of when you're going through infertility, how a man feels on that flip side of things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because I want
Mm-hmm.
to bring more elements of not only women's mental health involving and expressing about African Americans' health. Because right now in Texas in Houston, as an African American woman, we have the highest mortality rate, and it's very scary.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scary to the point where I know I've expressed to you before, like earlier in January, I had my miscarriage, my fourth one, and now I'm kind of in that mode where I talk about being in that tunnel and that stress, like
Yeah.
trying to get that stress off of it's going to be okay. Things happen. You just
Mm-hmm.
have to re-prepare your body. And
Mm-hmm.
so, my question for you, since we're now on the topic of infertility, for those that don't know what infertility could be, I know there's different types.
Hmm.
What is infertility means to you, and what are the different types of
Hmm.
infertility?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I appreciate your vulnerability too, just in sharing your experience and talking about, how one common this is, but also the fact that no one is really above this, right? And so, infertility, when I think about it as a person and also as somebody who has experienced it, it's it's a disease, right? It is something that is a medical condition, and it is characterized by any sort of failure of any parts of the reproductive system of a person. So, if people cannot achieve a successful pregnancy after 12 months of trying, or for people who are over 35, if they've been
Mhm.
trying for about 6 months, then of like, regular trying, then that is what we would call infertility. And for
Mhm.
me, I just define it as my lady parts just not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
I think that's the
That's
best
just
way.
it.
That's the best way to explain it. Like your lady parts is just not um, cooperating or not doing what it's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to do, because at a young age it's getting everything out, it's flushing everything out like it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now when you become of
Mm-hmm.
age, you kind of have
Yeah.
to put your health first a little bit more. When you're in your 20s, you don't really put your health so much first, because you're like, okay, I have a cycle and all these things happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I don't want to say that I'm in the category of infertility, because I want to say I'm blessed enough to continue to have pregnancies.
Mm-hmm.
But what
Mm-hmm.
I get so disheartened about is where there's some women that just can't have babies, and they have to go through like I learned about in my research, like the IUI,
Yeah.
or, getting a surrogate. I have a really close friend who was a surrogate for a couple, and we talked
Mm-hmm.
about back and forth. I'm like, how do you feel about, carrying somebody else's kid? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's your DNA, but it's that person's DNA. And she's like, I'm blessed to do it. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, I'm
Mm-hmm.
blessed enough to keep having pregnancies, but I'm also disheartened where it's not going full term. So I'm at that
Mm-hmm.
kind of title pole where I'm 36.
Mm-hmm.
I just said earlier today, I was talking to my spouse and I said, I think I have PCOS. I said, I'm starting to think I have PCOS or endometriosis, because
Mm.
after I had my daughter, who's now 8, my cycles aren't cycles. I don't think they're cycles, because
I
I think a
see.
lot of things, one is the trauma that came with the body that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't
Mm-hmm.
fully released that yet. So I'm still working on
Yeah.
how to release that, for one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Secondly, is I had a fourth degree tear. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't know what a fourth degree tear is, and I want to explain it a little bit more, because pretty much a fourth degree tear is a rooter from your tutor. Okay, it's the most elaborate
Yeah.
way that I
Yeah.
can explain it, because
Yeah.
I never thought in a million years that I was gonna have a fourth degree tear in
Mm.
such a huge way. You know,
Right. Right. And this was
and
with having your daughter.
this was having my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't learn how to walk until May. I had to learn how to re-walk. I had to learn how to retake a shower. I had to learn pretty
Oh
much how to learn how
wow.
to re-poop.
Hmm.
I had to use a donut for those months and lay like on my
Wow.
stomach. I couldn't even lay like how I wanted to lay, because I was in so much pain. And I wish, if you're a physician, and I would love for any more physicians to come on, to advocate a lot more for African American women,
Yeah.
because people are dying behind this. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just something where you're just like, oh, there's nothing. No, like
Mm.
people are actually
It's happening.
dying.
It's happening.
It's
Yeah, that
happening.
is true. That is true. I mean, the research has talked about it, the statistics show it, and there's a lot more conversation about it. And you also mentioned something about, the types of infertility, and what you're also talking about is secondary infertility for people who have been able to have a child, have a baby, and then after that, your lady parts say, I'm gonna go on sabbatical.
And that's what
So,
I don't understand, because I feel like,
mhm,
one, it was a complete shit show from the start. My doctor didn't
mhm,
show up. She went on vacation. Like, I was demanding my doctor. I was like, can you please give me my doctor? Oh no, she's on vacation. I was like, well, I just saw her last week. Like, she could have said something. I needed to say something.
Your doctor didn't tell you they were going on vacation?
Doctor didn't tell me. I had two epidurals, you know? Yeah, two. I had one like here, and then the other one was like extensively long.
Ooh.
To come to have to reverse everything for me was just like, what the fuck in my head? Because I was like, why would you want? They were like, we're afraid you're not going to push. So, and mind you, with me being on the epidural, I was walking. Like everybody in the room was
Wow.
looking at me and was like, she crazy. Like, you're not supposed to be walking. And I would have a contraction and I'm just bouncing on the ball, like, yeah, like, yeah, it's good. I'm great. You know, I'm doped up. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah, I was bouncing on the ball. Yeah. So when they told me they're
And
gonna reverse everything, I froze. I froze because I was like, "What do you mean you're reversing? Like, we're not reversing this. Like, it's a joke, right? You know." So I ripped from the river
hmm.
to the tutor, and then I got free surgery because they had to stitch my ass back up, which was 78 stitches, and then the rest was history. I had to figure it out on my own. Like I had a
My
doctor,
goodness.
no, the doctor, not the doctor, the nurse. I had a nurse come in and tell me, you know, you might as well try to get up and walk. You know, you're not going to have any help after this anyways. So,
Oh,
yeah. Guess what she was?
that's
She was African American.
okay.
Yeah. You got to
All
take
right.
that in. Take that in, reel it in. Come with me. Come, we're blending two worlds here. So you got to I know you're a little shocked because the way I looked at her, I almost was, and I had to remove every emotion, and I had to call another. Now every other nurse was very
Mm.
gracious, beautiful, loved it. One of the nurses was like, she whispered in my ear, and she's like, "Erica, this is a shit show. You have too many people in here." Like I had, like literally, she was because I was still leaking. She had me hover on her, and she was like, "Yeah, this is a shit show." She said, "Erica, say the word, say it." And I erased everybody out of here. I was like you can do that with your fingers? Like I'm like in shock because I'm like I'm in labor. I don't know. But yeah, I told her I said I want everybody out, and she said everybody get your asses out. Like she was like Mama Bear times 10. And when she found out that nurse said what she said to me, she said, Erica, she's right. You got to get up though, because you have been medicated. You just, been medicated. We got to get the legs moving. But she said the way that she said that to you, you shouldn't have been talked to like that. I said, well, I don't want her in my room anymore. So please have her. And she was pissed. That girl was pissed at me. That girl was pissed at me because she looked at me every time I was in that hall. I said, it's not my fault. You shouldn't have said what you said. Sorry, not sorry. And what I think
Hmm.
other things when it comes to infertility too is if a patient is requesting for a DNC and you're not giving them DNC, keep
Hmm.
advocating because I'm now eight
Yeah,
years later, four miscarriages later, and have yet to had a DNC. Yeah, every doctor I have had with the miscarriages and everything, I've requested a DNC, but they said because my lovely body has expelled everything. We don't think we need a DNC. Yeah.
but I guess the question is like, well, how do they know?
How do they know? Because they said they did an ultrasound and they checked everything and everything expelled out.
I feel like we, especially as Black women here in the U.S., we're not listened to. We're really not. And it reminds me of even how I came about my PCOS diagnosis. I know these days they've changed the name. I don't remember what it was called, but there's like a new name for PCOS. It's PMOS,
Mm-hmm.
polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like my periods were all over the place. I didn't even know what it was. And I remember my periods being all over the place, and like I'm just in a lot of pain. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember you know, going to my doctor at this military hospital, and he's like, "Oh, it's just gas." And I said, "I've had gas
Right.
before. This
That's
is not
not. That's not
gas."
good.
So this man puts me on a cleanse for the weekend. And when I tell you I was releasing food from like 3 years before,
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I was
What kind of
so
cleanse was it?
angry. I
That would have been
remember
disgusting.
it was
Was
like
it like a liquid cleanse?
Yeah, it was a liquid cleanse. It was a mix of Gatorade and what's the powder stuff? Miralax, yeah. Miralax and something else. I can't remember exactly what it was, but this was years ago. It was over a decade ago. And I remember, like, this man is not taking me seriously. Like, this is not,
Oh,
this doesn't
really?
seem like it's necessary. But, it's like, let me just go with it because the doctor said so. And then the next month, guess what? The pain comes back. So I go again, I make an appointment and I go in and I was like, don't tell me it's gas because it's not. So I put my head down and he saw my little beard and it's so interesting that that morning I was about to shave and something was like, don't shave. And so I, because I have to shave often. Well, these days I wax, but I have a lot of chin hair. And so he was like, wait, I didn't see the last time you came in. Is this something that you deal with? And I said, well, clearly it's on my face, so I deal with it.
Really?
He said, okay, well, I think we need to do a pelvic exam. So we did a pelvic exam. I went in for an ultrasound and my ovaries looked like pomegranates, like the inside of a pomegranate, literally. So I'm just laying there and I'm thinking to myself, if I hadn't pushed this man today, if I hadn't advocated for myself, I would have been sent home again
Again,
with
being in
another
pain.
cleanse or something and just having to deal with this pain. And he was like, well, essentially it's the cysts that are like, I don't, he's like, they're bursting or I don't know, something like that. And that is what is causing the pain. And I was like, I told you it wasn't gas. I told you it
Did
wasn't
you have to have
gas.
surgery to get rid of them?
Mm-mm. Nope. Nope.
You didn't think
Never
about
had
like
surgery.
getting surgery to get
Mm-mm. 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 Listen, at that point, I didn't even know what was going on with my body. Like, I had no idea what was happening, right? Since childhood, I've always had irregular periods. I started my period very early. I remember like going to a doctor and, when I was younger, because I've been bleeding like nonstop for like 2 weeks. And I think I was a teenager at that point, or maybe like, I don't know, middle school. And it was just awful. So I had no idea. I mean, mind you, I grew up in Ghana, West Africa. And so I had no idea. And then he said, well, that is why he starts like listing all these symptoms. And I said, well, when I came in here, I told you all these things and you said
you
it
ignored
was, it
me?
was gas. Right. So what you're talking about is a lived reality for many, many, many Black women in this country.
Mhm. Many women
You
in
know,
general, you know?
many women. Yeah. And so I am also, yet to meet more non-Black or brown women who have experienced this.
I
I
wonder
I
why you haven't
personally
met anybody like that because it's like I feel like there's people out there that are experiencing these things, but
Mhm.
maybe they're just too afraid to talk about it, or
Absolutely. Absolutely.
find
They're
outlets to
afraid
talk
they're
about
f- they're afraid to talk about it. They're ashamed to talk about it also, right? There's a lot of stigma that has to do with our reproductive system. And if you are from, different like a culture like mine where your worth and your value as a woman is placed on your reproduction, there's a lot of weight that that part holds because that is one of the things that I really really struggled with. I didn't tell people that I was dealing with this for the longest time. I didn't talk about it. I mean, I told my therapist about it and some of my closest friends, but it was something that I didn't even want to talk about. And I was just struggling in silence.
it. And that's the toughest thing, struggling in silence is like it's not good for your mental, you know?
Mm-mm,
It makes
mm-mm,
you feel like you're how I how I was watching this podcast with Lauren London and she was talking about the passing of Nipsey Hussle, and she said like going through a dark tunnel, and there's a
mm-hmm,
tunnel that you just go by yourself, and you just don't. You want to
mm-hmm,
tell people that you're going through this situation, but then
mm-hmm.
people are judgmental. We're in a time where
Oh,
people are
yes.
really judgmental, and
Absolutely.
we're also in a time where our women's health is being questioned by a law, which is
That part.
insane and not
Questioned,
fun.
threatened, everything.
Taken, you know and it's
Mm-hmm,
scary to like I wish they had laws where they like good laws that help people to benefit if they had infertility,
mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm,
have resources for people that are going through PCOS a little bit more or endometriosis a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more, because
Mm-hmm.
whether you're in going through infertility, you're going through PCOS, you're going through a miscarriage that are not talked about, you're going through endometriosis, you have to understand you're not alone because
Absolutely.
1 in 4, maybe 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5 in that little pie of women, somebody's experiencing one of these situations.
Yeah, I mean, one in eight will when it comes to couples, 1 in 8 deal with infertility. So
And then it's not
it's
only on the
closer to
woman,
us.
and which is true, not only it's on the women's side of things, but on the flip point of things, men go through, they don't express when we sit there and we say, okay, we feeling this way, or we're going through this type of, for example, infertility, and you're trying to have a
Mm-hmm.
child and you see everybody around you have a child. That's a hard,
Mm-hmm.
that's a hard pill to swallow. That's a hard
Mm-hmm.
emotion to go through. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's something where I'm dealing with now with having the multiple miscarriages. And I question myself because I'm like, is it
Mm-hmm.
me? Is it my body? Is it my organs? And it's crazy because when a doctor, this last miscarriage, every doctor was like, the baby is sticking. We're excited. The baby is sticking. And I was like, okay, cool. And then when I saw it for myself, I was like, because, I was bleeding. So I didn't understand. I was like, why are you doing this now? Like, why? I'm not stressed. I'm walking. I'm drinking water. Like, I felt like I was at my healthiest. And then come to find out, I dropped weight significantly. That doctor looked at me. She said, no, it was a he. He said, do you not know how much you weigh? And I was like, no, just recently, like certain clothes started to fit a little snugglish for me. I'm trying to get fine for the summertime. However, I was like, no, I'm not, I'm not paying attention. I'm just like, the clothes fit me
Oh
now.
God.
That man looked at me. He said, you do know you lost 30 pounds, right? I said, who? The next patient, the patient next to me? Because it's not me. He said, no, Erica, it's you. We need to get this weight up. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But to know that people are out there experiencing infertility, just know you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not, it's a season. And are there ways to, I guess, cleanse your body for infertility?
I'm not a medical professional in that sense, and so I don't know that I can offer insight around like cleansing your body. What I do know is how to cope with it emotionally, right?
Mm-hmm.
How to deal with it on an emotional level. And I know that infertility thrives also in isolation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're already dealing with the guilt, the shame, the disappointment, and then when you add on the layer of thinking that you're the only person who is going through this, I think that it makes things definitely worse. So when it comes to how to cope with it, I think coping in community is one of the things that is really going to get people through. I know
Mm-hmm.
that it was one of the things that got me through. I joined a great online community. I started chronicling my journey on Instagram. I created a Finsta where I was chronicling my journey. And I remember connecting with all these women, and some of whom I'm still in touch with. Some of them were able to, have children. Some of them were not able to, and decided they were done trying. And so I know that in dealing with infertility, you cannot go through it by yourself.
I
You
think that's
cannot. You
I don't
cannot.
want to say a dangerous game to deal with that by yourself because that puts you
Mhm.
into a severe depression.
It
You know.
does. It does. It does. And there's healing in community, right? And so I'm not talking about like going out and telling everybody your business or just, like, hey, I'm dealing with infertility, everybody, that sort of thing, or having surrounding yourself with a whole lot of people. No, I'm
Mhm.
talking about just having someone that you trust that you can talk to. I had a therapist at the time, and she was my biggest support, right? She was the one that I would go talk to about everything. She was the one that was encouraging me, giving me the different activities, the journaling,
Mhm.
the the breath work, um,
I've
the
heard about
books to
that. The
read. Yeah, the
breath,
books to read, the different,
breath.
emotional coping skills, right? Challenging some of the thoughts that I was talking about, and talk about how I felt like a failure, right? And she would challenge some of those thoughts. right? And so on the emotional side of things, this is one of those things that will lead to a lot of other emotional issues for people. And sometimes we don't make that connection. Sometimes we don't realize, like, hey, this is what is adding to your anxiety. This is what is adding to your depression. And if you have also experienced trauma around infertility, such as miscarriages, like that in itself is a whole diagnosis by itself, right? People might be having nightmares, recurring thoughts, wanting to avoid certain places. At some point, I didn't even go to baby showers. If somebody invited me to a baby shower, I would not go. I would not, I couldn't do it. I could not
It's
do it.
it's gotten so, I'm not gonna lie. It's you're right about the trauma, because in the field that I work in for insurance, I have to talk about when somebody calls for a pregnancy, I have to
Mm-hmm.
be all happy and
Mm-hmm.
congratulations, and I'm
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like this is triggering me. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
like this is, because my job didn't
Yeah.
even give me enough time. They only gave me 3 days. So 3 days, yeah,
3 days.
3 days for bereavement.
Okay. That's a whole conversation for another day, but we don't
Uh,
have to talk about that now. No, no, for real. Like I feel you. I feel you because like even for me, when I was going through that, it was hard to work with clients who were pregnant.
It's very
It
hard
just
because it's like you're
mhm,
still in that mindset of, okay, well, it's
mhm,
May and I'm supposed to be 5 months.
mhm,
And,
mhm,
I had to remove, like, as soon as everything happened, I was like, well, it had just hit where it's like, oh, you're going to be 2 months on Monday. And this was in March. And I had to remove the app. I was like, okay,
mhm,
you got to find
mhm,
another way to deal with it. And
mhm,
that's what's leading
mhm.
me towards and finding a therapist.
Yeah.
And because I told my mom the other day, I said, I think I need to go back to therapy. And she's like, I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you for wanting to go back. And therapy is not bad. It's not nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to
It's
feel
not.
bad
It's
about.
not. It's
Just
not.
find
And I
a
mean,
way.
I'm a therapist with a therapist, right? Like,
My mama was
right?
too. She said, we therapists got to get a therapist because it's a headache. And I was like,
You know what
I,
I'm saying? Yeah. Ain't
I
nothing wrong with that.
do.
You gotta go afloat somewhere because you if you're not careful before you realize you're taking it out on your clients, right? Like I
Mhm.
remember years ago working with a colleague who, was also going through some infertility and had to work with a teen who who was pregnant and was talking about terminating the pregnancy. And it was so triggering for her and understandably
Yeah.
so, you know.
That's that's
And
that's understandably, rightfully.
right. So
I
imagine
can
if you don't have a therapist or somebody to talk to about this kind of stuff, like
and
what do
I
you
did start what you told me about journaling and stuff like that. I have started
Mhm.
journaling, which it's helped, but I know I still need the extra pushing of talking to somebody and let it just completely, like, let the trauma out of my body, because I feel like I've
Mhm.
held so much, and I haven't really
Mhm.
exploded like I wanted to, but I know I've held it
Mhm.
in for as long as I can. And some
Yeah.
nights, I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. But then I'm like, I'm really not okay. I know I'm not
Yeah.
okay. And it's
Yeah.
okay to not to be okay about these things, because these things are very touchy to
Mhm.
women. And
Absolutely.
as a man too, I'm sure on the flip side of things, it's not easy to keep hearing your girlfriend or your wife or your significant other go through, well,
Mhm.
I had a miscarriage this month, we'll try again in
Mhm.
6 months. And I've gotten to the
Mhm.
point where I feel like my daughters just probably have blessed me for what it is. But I get jealous because I see other people that are already pregnant. And I'm like, okay, well, it's supposed to be me this year. So
Yeah.
I agree that coping with it by yourself is not the way to go, and coping it with friends and family that actually been through the situation and understand the situation will help
Mhm.
you kind of understand that you're not alone. And then even for
Mhm.
men, have a supportive men group, or have a supportive text group, a group of guys, because
Yeah.
we don't talk about the men's side of things. I know men are probably
Mhm.
like, my wife is going through this. How am I supposed to
Yeah.
condemn her feelings and make her feelings feel valid and understand, but my feeling, I'm going through the loss too, and how do I
Same
figure it
thing.
out?
Yeah.
And it's on the
Yeah.
flip side of the same thing.
Yeah, it's complicated. It's complicated. And also even like on the end of the men, if the infertility issue or the medical issue is on their end too, right? There's all these societal standards also and these pressures as well for men. And
Mhm.
sometimes they get ignored, right? They get
Or they don't
ignored.
think that what mind blows me is sometimes men feel like, well, it's the woman. It's the woman's health, and I'm like,
Hmm.
when I've heard people say, no, it may not just be it may not be just Erica, okay? It may be you
Hmm.
too. And then you're like, no, it's not. I'm like,
Hmm.
you have trauma too, but your trauma is different. You're getting the flip side of my girl keeps going through this or my spouse keeps going through this and I'm trying to hold
Hmm.
my emotions, making sure she's strong and I'm not that strong. I think men hold on to their trauma too and just don't know how to
Yeah.
cope it out,
Oh yeah.
have the
Yeah.
resources to cope it out.
Yeah, it's a human experience. And so like, for any men who are listening, I would really encourage you to talk about it, right? Get some support around
Hmm.
infertility, not being able to start a family when you want to start a family. Also trying to navigate how to support your partner as well as you're going through this, and how to also ask your partner to support you. Language is something that sometimes we think we know what to say, only to realize we actually don't,
And we don't know how to say
and
it.
so
Communication
we
is
don't
the
know how to
key.
say it, right? We don't know how to say it. We don't know how to ask for our needs to be met. We don't know. Sometimes we don't even know what our needs are. So that is one of my favorite questions to ask folks when they're going through a hard time. What are you needing? What do you need from me? Right.
Hmm.
And a lot of times people are like, I don't know. And I say, you take a moment, take a beat to think about this, to actually think about what could make this feel a little better for you. What would make this feel safer? What would make this feel softer? How can I show love and support to you? And when you take a moment to actually ask yourself, sometimes like, oh, well, I just need a listening ear, or
Hmm.
I need something to take my mind off what is going on, or I just I could use some solutions, or I could use a referral. Do you know anybody that I can go see? Any like fertility clinic um referrals, you know?
And check with your
And
insurance too, because
yes,
sometimes
yes, insurance will cover.
cover some things.
It will
Um,
cover some of these things. Yeah.
because
Yeah. And
I'm
so,
running with my insurance right now, where there's a lot of things
yeah,
that are covered. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I know, like, at the very beginning, you talked about, like, IUI and all that stuff. Like, there's so many different options out here. I did IUIs. I did a couple of IUIs. I
Ooh.
got pregnant on one of the IUIs and ended up in a miscarriage. And I eventually did IVF. And on the first round, had my son. So there's different options out there, but the reality is that if you don't talk about these things, or if you don't talk about what you're struggling with, you're not going to know that there's options. You're not going to know these solutions.
Mhm.
We have a saying in my language, of Tree, that translates loosely into English as, if you don't sell your illness, you're not going to find a cure. If you don't talk about your illness, you're not going to find
Mm.
a cure. And so, there's even been people in my life later that I've been open about my journey with, and they're like, oh my goodness, I actually have been going through that. And I say, okay, well, here's the name of the doctor that I saw. And honestly, one of my really good friends ended up getting pregnant, with the help of the doctor that I saw, and has a beautiful baby.
Oh,
So sometimes it's just about talking to people about what you're dealing with, not keeping it to yourself, right?
not
Allowing
hiding,
people to,
you know.
yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
allowing
like
people to support you.
our generation is now so vocal
Hmm.
with what we need, what we want, and social media has changed so much because we grew up with social media, and
Hmm.
now it's all these things like infertility, the IUI, the IUF, the IUD, just different things
Hmm.
with the women's body. It's now being talked about, but I think it's more being examined more as we're advocating for ourselves and we need the help that we need.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. So we have, excuse me, we have a lot more resources these days, and if you don't talk about what it is that you're dealing with, you're not going to be, connected to what those resources are,
What
you know,
resources would you give?
in terms of dealing with infertility or just in general, or what
I
sort
would
of
say
resources are you
with
talking about?
I would say how to cope with infertility a little bit better. And
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
in general, I would say how to how to cope with infertility, but also how to communicate the key of
Mm-hmm.
communication of what you need.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. So when it comes to infertility and the different resources, there's so many around, and one of my favorite resources that I share with people is Resolve. Resolve is the National Infertility Association. So it's resolve.org. And on there, they have so many different resources. They do a lot of advocacy on the national, federal level. Also, they have like different advocacy groups, different branches. They have local chapters in I think in every state. Um, and they also have in-person support groups. They have different listings for like different um, support groups in like people's different areas, right? And
Mhm.
learn more about their advocacy and the different things that they're dealing with in terms of like the different laws they're trying to get passed to make sure that people are protected and that infertility doesn't get lost in the mix of everything else,
Mhm.
and that procedures like IVF are paid for and protected and things like that. So that is my biggest go-to, because on there also they have a lot of different resources.
Mhm.
Um, and so that would be one of the big things. And also there's also on this website called Arc Fertility, they
Mhm.
have a lot of different links around there. They have educational resources on there. So it's arcfertility.com. And they have different like grants and scholarship information for different organizations that are trying to do this infertility work. And people who cannot even afford to pay for any kind of like reproductive assistance. There's a resource called Reunite Assist, and they will help with getting funding and that sort of thing. And people who are veterans or military affiliated, they even have like a special program there. So there's
Okay.
a lot, yeah, there's a lot of
That's a
different
good resources.
resources.
I like that.
Mhm.
I like
Yeah, there's
that.
a lot of
That's really
different
good.
resources. Yeah, and there's also different, like I said, support groups. Even when sometimes we kind of bash these online forums and things like that, but I think that in today's world, it's one of the ways in which we connect with people. And so there's so many Reddit threads about infertility, and so people can connect over there and talk to other people who have gone through it and see what has worked for them. On Reddit, like if you just go on Reddit, it's just infertility. um
Even on Facebook, I
this
know that Facebook
Even
has
on
a lot
Facebook.
of groups and
Yeah,
forums for
yeah,
history.
yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of different resources out there too. And also, if you're going to look for a therapist, you want to look for a therapist who has some experience with working with people who have struggled with infertility. That is definitely something that is going to be really, really important.
Been told to look at maternal therapists.
Hmm. Yeah, maternal mental health therapist.
Mm-hmm. I've been told to
Hmm.
look at that. I've been looking into that, but it's kind of weird because my insurance. We'll talk about it offline, but my insurance is kind of wonky when it comes to like
Hmm.
mental health, and I don't
Hmm.
know. It gets frustrating because I don't know if it's covered. One minute it says it is, the next minute it says it's not, so it's a little confusing. But we'll talk about that
Mm,
offline.
okay.
But I
But
just
yeah, there's definitely some out there too.
yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
keep advocating for yourself, like I always say. But
Hmm.
I have enjoyed this conversation so much. I appreciate you coming on
Same.
to the new
Same.
podcast of The Balance with Erika B. To
Thank
everyone
you.
listening, before we wrap up here, I want to thank you for spending the time with us today. I do want to let you know today's episode resonates with you. Please know that you're not alone. Healing isn't linear. grief is real and your feelings are valid. I can't stress that enough. If this episode
Mm-hmm.
encouraged you, help you, make you feel seen, made you think differently, please subscribe, leave a review, share this episode with someone that needs it. And my friend, before we wrap up, I want to remind everybody, balance doesn't mean having everything perfectly together. It
Mm.
means learning how to hold space for yourself in every season. Like I stated, this is about to be a shit show roller coaster on this podcast. So I'm excited for this new season. I'm excited to see where this new podcast is going to lead. Before we leave, can you let everybody know, Dr. Phoebe, where everyone can find you?
Absolutely. I can be found on the internets, in the internet streets. I am on Instagram as Dr. Phoebe Brako. There's no O in my name, so it's PHEBE. You can also find me at phoebebrakolmft.com. So that's PHEBEBrakolMFT.com. And I'm on TikTok. I am on Instagram, Facebook, same username. So just a quick Google search will lead you to all of those different places.
Follow you
So
on TikTok. I got to get you on the balance TikTok at this point. I got to
listen,
follow you
I
on
be
that.
I be on the I be on the TikTok. I
I'll be
be
on the
on the
TikTok
TikTok.
too. I gotta get you on the TikTok.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah,
let
yeah, yeah.
everyone know I'm Erika B, and this is the Balance with Erika B. Until next time, take care of yourself, give yourself some grace, and keep loving yourself and put yourself first, and keep advocating. Because the more you advocate for yourself, you're gonna get the results that you need. So I hope you
Mm.
guys have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, wherever you're listening, worldwide. Peace out, guys. Bye.